Welcome back. In the previous session, we had looked at the application of competency in selection process. Now, I'll take another very important application, which is performance management system. Now, performance management system, all of you know, is more than mere promotion or increment. It actually is also not only a postmortem here, and it has to be a continuous process. It cannot be subjective. So competencies help you identify those parameters which will make a person successful in a role. So like the way I said, PMS is all about what needs to be achieved and how it needs to be achieved. So what part are the hard numbers, your KRAs, KPIs? KRAs are key result areas and KPIs are key performance indicators. And also the how part. The how part is the competencies. I'll take an example. So you have two candidates, and if you're only going to measure people on the basis of the what has been achieved, it may not give you the complete picture. Like if there are two sales managers, uh, one of them keeps on pushing people. Both of them join the company at the same time. Both of them have been given targets. One person continuously pushes people, and at the end of year has achieved the targets. Say 100% target, has achieved 105% target, but in the process has lost three critical team members and morale is low. The other person also worked with the team. All the team members are motivated and has also achieved 105%, or maybe has achieved 102%. Now, if we are looking at only what needs to be achieved, we will say, okay, candidate A is better than candidate B. However, what we don't realize is that the candidate A is causing irreparable damage to the organization. This year, the person has achieved, but the team has left. It's possible that next year the performance will go down and it will continue to go down. While the second one has achieved the targets and has also ensured that the team remains motivated. So the second one has not only achieved what, he's also done it in the right way. So that is where we are saying competencies become important. So if developing people, teamwork are important competencies, then the first person will get poor marks or low marks on those competencies, while the second one will get higher marks on those competencies. So what is performance management system or PMS? It, like the way we said, it is a discussion on expectation versus performance that are measurable and acceptable to both the employer and the employee. It is review of the past. However, it also focuses on future, which is the individual development. So that is where, so, just by saying person, you have not achieved your target, you need to achieve your target, will not help. The person will say, yes, sir. But unless you train the person on how he or she needs to achieve those targets, the person will never be able to achieve the targets. So it is also about focusing on future. What is it that needs to be done in order to achieve the targets? It's also an opportunity for frank discussion between supervisor and the employee. And competency helps you ensure that this discussion is focused and everybody is discussed on common parameters, so that at the end of a year, when you have to compare candidates, you can have an apple to apple comparison. Now, I'm sure all of us have been appraised, and one of the first things that we say is that my boss does not like me, or my supervisor did not like me, my HOD does not like me, and hence I get a lower rating while the other one gets all prime things. So there are a lot of biases which come in, like the halo effect, the central tendency, the first impressions, negative effect, recency, and the confrontation or avoidance. When you have competencies, it helps reduce all these subjectivities and gives an objective measure on which performance can be evaluated. So it becomes very important. The next and a very important part, like the way I looked at performance, is potential. Now, How are competencies and performance linked? Uh, there is a concept called as restricted range effect. Now, suppose we are going to premier institutes, we are going to the Indian Institute of Technologies or Indian Institute of Management or other premier institutes, we'll realize that in terms of IQ, all the candidates are more or less the same. They would have got training by the same teachers. Most of them would have done similar kind of projects, summer trainings, etc. They would come from similar backgrounds, and all of them are polished. So it's very difficult to judge them on these parameters. Hence, what would distinguish one from the other would be competencies. So, what competencies help you do is it helps you differentiate between people who otherwise, because of restricted range effect, you will not be able to differentiate. Now, we need to understand that competency is not, or competence is not performance, but potential, a qualification to perform. If a person has these certain qualities, then it is more likely that the person is going to perform better. So it is like the way we said, it is a necessary but not sufficient condition. I remember my CMO where I said competency is a function, performance is a function of competency, motivation, and also opportunity. A person may have the competency. So can the person do the job? Yes. But will the person do the job? Probably no, may not be motivated. Or person can do the job, will do the job, but may not get an opportunity. Yeah. Also, some people who may lack competencies, now this is really, really exceptions, can make up for these shortcomings with exceptionally hard work. So competence has to be there, but it does not guarantee results, nor can its absence always predict failure. So there is always the little bit of type 1, type 2 error which can creep in. And remember, competency is not your performance management. I've been doing consulting for over 500 organizations across the world, and a lot of times people say, "You are saying this person is poor on competency. However, this is he's a good performer." We are saying, "Yeah, the person is a good performer, but he may not have the potential to grow." So basically, competencies is all about being qualified to do work in a particular position. Performance, on the other hand, is the result of the actual work that is being done. Now, what I'll cover towards the end is this grid on performance versus potential. Now, this can be a 2 by 2 grid like your famous BCG matrix, or it can be a 3 by 3, which can be like the McKinsey 9 box model. And what we do is, on one hand, you can have the performance, which you evaluate using your annual appraisals. And the other hand, you may have the potential. Now, how do you judge potential? You can judge potential by using something called as assessment development centers, which are nothing but a series of simulations where a person is made to demonstrate those competencies, and they are evaluated by trained assessors. You can also, sometimes people use something called as a 360-degree, which is a multi-rater feedback, wherein a person gives their self-rating on certain behaviors. There is a peer rating, there is a rating by the reportees, there's rating by the boss, and some organizations even include the customers. And what you can do is you can then map people. So we are saying that there may be some people who are low on performance, who are low on potential. They are what we'll call as laggards. In fact, uh, this should actually be very small. The more bigger it is, the more problems you will have. So this is laggards, or you can even call them as deadwood. So typically, we would say these are the people that, if possible, you should divest. Now there would be a large number of people in organization who would be very good on performance, but they may not have the requisite behavior potential or behavior competencies to move rapidly ahead. These are the people whom we call as specialists. You need to take care of these people. In fact, in a normal curve, a large population would be specialist. Now, you may have few people who may be kind of average on performance, but maybe high on behaviors. So these are what we call as generalists, and you may need to put them in the relevant role. But your future leaders are the ones who are high on performance as well as high on potential. This is what we sometimes also say are your future leaders, and you need to ensure that you groom them and they do not leave the organization, because these are the ones who are going to be your future growth engine. Okay, so what I'll now do is I'll quickly sum up what we covered today in this session. So we looked at uh, the definition of competency. How does the competency relate to potential? How does it relate to talent? Uh, Also, very important part that competencies ensures that there is equity, or everybody gets an equal opportunity, and it reduces biases. We looked at the advantages of competencies, like it ensures that you have the right person for the right role, reduces turnover, improves performance, improves productivity. It helps serve as a common thread, which puts all HR processes together. It ensures that people speak the same language. When we say somebody is a high potential, the person may be in Kashmir, maybe in Kanyakumari, maybe say in some part in the northeast, or in Odisha, or in West Bombay, or but when you have to judge people, when you have common parameters, so you can have apple to apple comparison. Then we looked at the various definitions of competency. One of the most important thing is competency has to be causal. It and it should differentiate between successful and an average performer. Yeah. Then we also looked at what is competency framework. So competency framework is a structure in which you put all competencies. So in a competency framework, you have a list of competencies, you have name of the competency, then you have a definition of the competency, then you have behavioral indicators, which will vary from level to level. Then in order to measure these, you have a rating scale, which we call as behavioral anchored rating scale. Then we looked at how competency can be used at the time of recruitment. You create questions around it, use 5 Ws, which is who, what, why, when, where, and how much, and use open and close probes using the STAR methodology, which is situation, task, action, and result. Then we moved on to performance management, where we said PMS consists of what needs to be achieved and how needs to be achieved. So competencies form the how part. And then we said that it is also very useful for the purpose of assessing potential. Potential can be assessed using assessment centers. It can also be assessed using 360 degrees. And then normally organizations do something called as performance potential matrix, which can be a 2 by 2 or a 3 by 3 matrix to do a talent segmentation. So they can have differential treatment for different people. Yeah. So with this, I will conclude this session. I hope you found the session useful. If you wish to contact me, if you have any questions, you can send a mail to me at misra.yogesh@gmail.com. Have a good day. Bye.